Okay, I posted it on Facebook too.
Alrighty, we're live. Gonna roll the audio.
This is Prep Period, an all sports podcast by the Ventura County Star and the people at VCS Preps.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Prep Period, the Ventura County Star's all preps, all sports podcast. My name is Dominic Massimino. He is Joe Curley. We are sports reporters here at the Ventura County Star. Today we got another stacked show for you guys. We're going to be talking the top 25 cross-country rankings. We got a special guest we're going to hopefully talk with. We're super excited for that. But first, what we're gonna do is talk about some football games. Joe, tell me how your weekend went, how your week went. Weekend again, quote unquote.
Yeah, it was very busy, but fantastic. We had multiple records challenged and broken. I was at the Las Virgenes Cup game, which I think is the first Las Virgenes Cup game I've ever covered. It was a little bit of everything, little bit of Kane Miller showing us his moves, a little bit of George Hastings making big plays, and a lot of Gavin Gray once again delivering for the Chargers. So handing Calabasas their first loss of the season. Bringing Agoura back up to 2-2 on the season, their third straight win in the rivalry. Agoura now that I think about it, I screwed up the lead of the story because the lead of the story should have been Agoura is 2-2 with 2 rivalry wins. So they beat Oak Park and they beat Calabasas. And if you're USC or UCLA, that would be a successful season, right? If USC beats Notre Dame and UCLA, then your alumni aren't going to have much to argue about. Well, I mean, I guess Trojan fans can agree to disagree, but anyway, I love it when my teams beat their rivals. So I'm sure Agoura alumni are super happy this week. Yeah. What about you? Were over at that game was at Larrabee?
Yes, sir. Yeah, but speaking of, we have we have a shared experience this week of screwing up the lead because I find out a couple days later that that Jack Cunningham broke the Ventura High receiving record from Derry in that game.
Oh,
yeah, I caught that tweet.
Great.
I think maybe yesterday or the day before. So yeah, a stat that I didn't know going in. Would have talked with Jack a little bit about that, but we're gonna. I told Derek Garcia after the game. We'll be talking. I'm sure we're gonna be talking with Jack a lot this season. The way he's played last year and the way he started off this year. But yeah, another fun game. It ended up, Camarillo did a really good job making this a competitive game. They actually led at halftime. They scored on the first drive, kind of put pressure on Ventura. The Cougars looked sort of out of sorts on offense early on. Their first 2 drives went 3 and out. Just kind of struggled to get the ground game going, which is something that's been, a kind of a key thing for Ventura this year. Something that Coach Tim Garcia talked a lot about is like, they want to establish themselves on that, on the ground. So that was kind of tough. A couple of errant passes from Derek Garcia. They go into halftime trailing Camarillo, and that all changes to start the second half. They end up kind of blowing this game up. The story of the game kind of offensively for Ventura is Derek Garcia, who's this stud passer, a guy who can kind of sit and deliver from the pocket, is how we've seen him play in his high school career. And he has 5 carries on the night, 4 of them go for touchdowns. So he rushes for 4 touchdowns, 132 yards, in addition to throwing for over 200 yards in this game. All 5 scores for Ventura end up coming on the ground, 4 of them from their quarterback. They just kind of lit it up in the second half and were able to take the victory, it kind of a gritty one, having to come from behind to beat Camarillo, similar to last year. Very, very competitive game. The one note on Camarillo is, my eyes were on, the quarterback position all game, just knowing that Dylan Nicholson went down, with that knee injury, and you had Brad Barlow, junior quarterback, stepping in. We didn't really know what he was going to look like. And he looked great. I think I called you and told you this maybe on Friday night or on Saturday morning, made some guys miss in the back who got, into the backfield and were harassing him, chasing him around. He made some timely passes. He completed a touchdown pass to Camarillo's freshman receiver, 87. Forgetting his name off the top of my head, but there's something there. They're not without a quarterback who can play well and help them win games. So that's a nice silver lining for Camarillo.
One thing Derek told me one of the times I've interviewed him already this year, I can't remember it was after the TO game or whether it was in preseason, was that the UNLV coaches had asked him to work on his agility. And so, it's obviously paying off. Does that ring a bell with you? Do you say it to both of us?
Yeah. We talked about that a little bit after the game. Is like, he's
you told me that.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I'm having
the gears are turning. I'm like, pretty sure I told you that,
the
Joe.
Hamster wheel. The hamster wheel is turning. All right, go ahead. Take it. Sorry.
Derek told me, like, he asked his coaches, he's like, his future coaches at UNLV, he's like, what should I be doing? How should I be spending my time, this final year in high school and over the summer to be preparing for college? And coach said, if you have the choice between getting in the weight room and putting on a bunch of, a muscle and kind of getting yourself ready that way, or becoming more agile, able to make those, cuts that will open the field up for you, that's the thing I want you to do. Agility. And he said it's clearly paying off for him. Those two of those big runs, one was for 51 yards and one was for 41 yards. He just pulled the ball, saw something in the, the defensive backfield that he liked and pulled the ball, and he just, beat him to the end zone. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of, deception. There were players there, that maybe could have made the tackles, but the speed was impressive, very impressive. As somebody who spent a lot of time watching fast people on tracks in my athletic career, it'd be interesting to see what Derek Garcia could run in a 200 if you threw him in some track spikes.
All right. That is a heady recommendation. What about more, one of the other big wins, the big win maybe that we weren't there for was Moorpark one-upping its season from last year. Moorpark started the season last year 3-0 and then lost to Santa Barbara. This year they started the season 3-0 and beat Santa Barbara by 10, which is pretty significant considering how good Santa Barbara has been in recent seasons.
Yeah, that 10-point margin of victory all came in the fourth quarter. They went into the locker room at halftime tied up 14-all, and it's the second half shutout that Moorpark has gotten this year. I think it was it Birmingham they shut out in the second half as well. So that defense continues to be, we've talked about them as maybe like the most balanced team that we have, but the defense is making a case to kind of be in the limelight a little bit as the front line for Moorpark, kind of, making a case for itself as a great team this year. That defense just has looked really good. Evan Brady returns a punt 70 yards down at the 10-yard line, and Garrett Gray, he had two rushing touchdowns in this game. Garrett Gray punches in his second touchdown. Jack Klodowski kicks a field goal, and so they get 10 points in the fourth quarter, shutout Santa Barbara. Pretty impressive game. And the first score of the game for Moorpark came on I believe it was also 70 yards, a 70-yard pass to Davis Benson, who we keep hearing his name. We keep talking about him a little bit as an explosive player. So he's one of the up and comers over there.
And then, yeah, it kind of seemed like it was crazy getting back to the car and looking at the score list and being like, this game went to 50 and this game went to 50. And we don't know what was the highest scoring week in county history, but I'm pretty sure this week would have been up. It made me wish we had that research ready. Derry. No, just kidding. But yeah, you said in our show notes here, over 90 points total scored in 2 of the games.
Yeah.
Including the Simi Cathedral game, which was 110.
Yep.
And over 80 points scored in 4 of the games. So that includes Newbury St. Pius and Buena San Marcos.
Yeah.
So
the other over 90 point total game that I left out of the rundown, sorry, was that Fillmore Grace game, which I'm giving myself. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to kind of see that was going to be a shootout going in, but any win I can get, I'm going to take. So I'm giving myself the pat on the back this week for calling that out as
right.
What I thought was going to be a shootout. Maybe. Do you want to start with Simi Cathedral, because that's a kind of a key win for Simi, getting in the win column their first time this year. We had a player kind of go crazy in that game. Did you talked to Coach Benkert, this week?
I did, and I talked to him at length, and I might have something. I will probably have something in the notebook when I write it later today. And just, if you think about it, this may have been their toughest opponent of the 4 game. They start 0-3, and I think if they played like this earlier, they wouldn't be 1-3. And so I think maybe the theme is that Simi is starting to solidify a little bit and starting to look like Simi. They did stay with Connor Petrov at quarterback. Essentially what Jim said was that I'm going to stay with a quarterback as long as he's moving as long as he's playing well. Yeah. And that's why he switched quarterbacks twice already was we hadn't gotten, and part of that is the whole offense itself hadn't really been whole and hadn't been playing well together. And now you're starting to see the line, when we really questioned the Simi line this year. They lost so many players in the offseason, and they ran for over 300 yards of total rushing against Cathedral, which is one of the better programs in Southern California.
Yeah.
And so, Sal Villa has ties a school record for 6 touchdowns in one game, all of them rushing. Sal Villa is not the starting tailback for Simi Valley. He's obviously one of their best players, one of the best two-way players in Ventura County. But the fact that, he's also one of the clutcher players. He won a playoff game with a last-second interception last year. He's a fantastic defensive back, fantastic running back, and he's also super young. So you're starting to see him kind of, build as a player in the varsity level as he gets older. I think Simi plays. We'll talk about it later. Simi plays, the game of the week this week. At home, they host Thousand Oaks in a game that I covered last year. So that's going to be super exciting to see, get TO a Marmani League test and get Simi Valley. They get to play the team that's number 2 in our rankings right now. So, that's what I got on Simi. What you want to give us something on? You spoke to Coach Ryan over there at Buena after their big OT win.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. What a crazy game. This was another one that was like, we say this every week. It's like, I really got to start cutting myself off, but gosh, I wish I could have been there for this game. It was nuts. Yeah. Absolutely nuts. So, both teams just kind of running each other over on offense, like most of the game. Coach Bolin said, it's like, the run defense has been really difficult for us. Like it showed in Fillmore, who, rushed for quite a few yards and quite a few touchdowns against them. And the same thing happened for most of the game here against San Marcos. But what happens is basically there are 2-point conversions that go and don't go throughout the game. There are extra points that are that are fumbled on the snap. There are extra points that are missed. There are extra points that are blocked. And so there's a very kind of strange score. Kind of, if you're a scoregami person, it was like, maybe there's going to be a weird scoregami in this game because of all of these weird.
I am a scoregami person.
There you go. But yeah, so it comes down to what it ends up coming down to is San Marcos has a chance to win the game at the end of regulation after scoring, because Buena is down an extra point at that point, and the extra point is fumbled, and it's the fourth extra point in the fourth quarter to not be successful for both teams. Each team had 2 that were unsuccessful in the fourth. So that final that unsuccessful extra point ends up sending the game to OT. The Buena defense comes in extremely clutch in they're on defense for the first drive of OT. They force a turnover on downs and then come down, and Jackson Roberts, who had I believe 3 touchdowns on the night, ends up punching in a 1-yard touchdown to end the game. So it's like, defense when it mattered most, which is always awesome. And Blake Eberhard had 4 rushing touchdowns. It was another one of those games where it was all about the ground game, similar to Oak Park, which maybe we'll talk about later. But before that, looks like
you see it. You got it.
May have. I do not have it yet.
The first, pretty soon. So we will.
How do you vamp without saying what it is? You gotta.
The first guest. No, it's historic. We talk about records and history and stuff. The first guest in Prep Period 2.0 history. Which we'll get whenever he calls in. He says he's calling now.
Yeah, it's all good. It takes a couple minutes to pop in, but I will let him in.
All right, keep going while we'll finish up the roundup while we.
For sure. What other games did we have that we want to talk about? We talked Buena San Marcos. Yeah, Fillmore Grace ended up being a fantastic game. We had Fillmore was actually trailing Grace at halftime of this game. Another similarity to the game I covered, that Ventura Camarillo game. They're trailing at halftime and have a explosive third and fourth quarters to end up taking the victory. I believe Fillmore, the stat was Fillmore scored 3 touchdowns in about 4 minutes in the beginning of the third quarter to kind of blow this game wide open. They were trailing a touchdown at halftime and then come back and win this one 54-40, one of our highest scoring games behind the Simi Cathedral game this week. Are we having anything I can do on my end, Joe?
Well, one thing, I've been sitting here doing some quick math as we've been going through this, and one thing that I thought was interesting that I think I'm going to start doing is looking at just where in the CalPreps rankings the teams are swinging, as from week to week.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you it's probably unfair to even ask because there's so the biggest riser this week from one week to the next was Agoura. They went up 23 spots. Simi went up 20 spots. The third biggest riser, which shows you kind of the analytics, didn't even play. Oxnard went up 19 spots this week without even playing because the teams that they have played
played well the next week. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And it's also speaks to the importance of scheduling strong opponents in that Agoura's played, this extremely tough schedule. Calabasas we had, as one of our top 10 teams going into the week, and they pull out the victory there. It makes sense that they're going to be a big riser given, getting a win over a tough opponent like that. Expect to see probably Simi does the same thing after beating Cathedral.
For sure. Yeah. Agoura went up 23 spots. Simi went up 20, and they're higher up in the rankings. So 20, that 20 is probably more valuable than the 23 with Agoura.
Yeah. Meaningful 20 slots for sure.
Oxnard 19, Fillmore 17, Oak Park 16. So, those are teams maybe who performed better last week than, they had previously. And on the other end, the amazing thing is Pacifica has a blowout win over Royal, and they went down 5 spots they went from 20 to 25. Bonnie lost 9 spots. Calabasas with their loss lost 23, and Newbury lost 28. So that's almost 2 divisions. I mean, we have so much more football to play, but it's just kind of interesting how one game, one set of data does all that. So, can have an impact. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, clearly. Do you want to move on to Darius?
Let's just continue until he checks in.
Yeah. Well, okay. So before we move on, important to remind everybody, we're talking about some of these great performances this week. Go vote in the High School Football Player of the Week poll for Week 3. It's still live, I believe, on vcstar.com. So go vote for your guys. Go vote for your whoever you think is most deserving of that award. This week was a particularly impressive one and a particularly competitive one. So I'm curious to see. There we go. We got
the timing.
I'm excited to see what happens with that. But I'm more excited for our guest right here. There we go. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hello.
Hey, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. Our first guest of all time is Pacifica quarterback Taylor Lee. How is your school day going, my man?
It's going great. Thank you for having me. We're at lunch right now, so I got a break right now.
Perfect. Well,
isn't it defensive film too, right? So you don't even have to be in that film either.
Yeah, nah.
So you need no introduction, but we got a little introduction for you, Joe. You wanna introduce our guest here?
All right. With a national leading 22 touchdown passes without an interception through 4 games, quarterback Taylor Lee has been worth the wait for Pacifica High football. The 6'2" junior set a Ventura County record with 8 touchdown passes last week, accounting for all of Pacifica's scores in the victory over Rio Mesa. So, Taylor, you and I talked after the win over Newbury Park a couple weeks ago, and just thought it was, you'd be a really good first guest. So just tell us about this Triton start. How fun has it been, to start your season like this after waiting your turn behind starter Dominic Duran last year?
Yeah, it's been great. We've been rolling. You told me I would have expected this if you asked me months ago, but we're just rolling. The chemistry has been great. But a big credit to my line. They've been doing a great job giving me the time to do it. So I'll give the offensive line been a big thing.
And you obviously had big moments last year when Dominic was hurt. You came in and had you tied the school record for touchdown passes in a game against Camarillo. How much did having that little period in the middle of the season, having some success against Camarillo and then learning some lessons against, at Oaks Christian,
right.
How much did that help you kind of get start the season running this year?
It helped a ton. Just the ability to get my feet wet, I got put in a big situation against Oaks, but I thought the help character development, getting me ready for different things, and obviously Camarillo was a big game for me, so now I got my confidence up for this season, you can say.
And you had sorry, Joe, if I could cut in.
Go ahead.
You had 2 guys who, on the outside last year, two targets who just were so important to that offense and being so explosive in Savion Taylor and Isaiah Dillon. And you knew by the time you were gonna take over this starting job they were gonna graduate. But what's it been having a kind of a little bit of a clean slate with some new receivers like Will and building that chemistry sort of from the ground up? What's that been like?
It's been amazing. We worked our butts off in the off season. Will and Ant, I've been playing with them since we were 6 years old, so I feel like that's a big thing. We already got the little connection down, but seeing it on the varsity field has been better,
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah, one of these questions we were asked about growing up as a quarterback in Oxnard. Why was that your position? You're obviously athletic and could have gravitated to any position. How did you become a quarterback, and who were your heroes growing up? What teams did you play for in youth? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, I started off as a running back my first year, but then my dad's been my coach my whole life, my whole youth career. So he said we got to get the best player at the ball, the best hands, and also play baseball too. So that helped a lot. And Coach Moon, he's always been watching me, so he's been giving me tips. And my cousin Nick Davis, former Pacifica quarterback, that's one of my heroes. That's one I've been looking up to. He has some records in the Pacifica football, so he helped me
That's
a
right.
lot.
Yeah, we remember Nick Davis, former Moore Park College, and I think Merrimack College quarterback. So he
Yeah,
was
Merrimack,
a multi-year college quarterback. And then, when you hear, the fact, which is, you look through the Max Prep stats right now, and you look for the leaders of, people who've thrown touchdown passes and no interceptions, and you hear that stat that no one else in the country has thrown more touchdowns than you without an interception. Just what's your reaction to that? What kind of emotion does that elicit?
I didn't even know that. You're reading my reaction right now. That's amazing, crazy. I didn't even know that. I just feel like it's protecting the ball. It's like we've been very efficient. It doesn't seem like I need to throw an interception yet, but we've just been very efficient.
Yeah, when you're making your reads and kind of deciding when you're going to let the ball fly and maybe try and get it into a tight window, like how do you kind of approach that idea of efficiency and maybe trying whether or not you try and kind of put some passes where a defender could get it or couldn't, like just how do you kind of approach the risk rewards of kind of being a quarterback?
I feel like the big thing is watching film. Me and my OC, we watch film for like hours and hours. So he tells me, I know what the defense is doing before like they even know what the signal is. So watching film is the biggest, and the connection with the receivers, where they're going to be, how they run the routes, their speeds. I feel like it's a big thing.
Do you have any memories of Pacifica State Championship team? Were you at that game, or did you see that team play at all?
I was at the CIF game, state game, regional game. I was at every game that year.
You were at those games?
All of those games.
Because your dad is a coach in the program.
Yeah, he was the running backs coach. He was Malik Sherrod. That's he still checks up on me. That's why.
Nice.
That's one of my great mentors.
That's awesome.
So when you go from a kid who watched that 2019 team, and you go from a young player who was on the sidelines last year in a state championship bowl, is there any lessons? Does it, are you daydreaming of the moment where you can lead the Tritons out into a state championship bowl? Like what I don't know, how does that affect your development when
it's a motivator. It's a motivator. It's always been my biggest goal since I've watched Pacifica. Daydreaming about those, like scoring a touchdown state championship game, winning it, holding the trophy with Coach Moon. That's just my biggest motivation right there. Seeing last year do it from the sidelines and seeing the 2019 do it, that's just one of my biggest motivations.
All right, we're gonna hit you with a tough question. You're the quarterback. You're a junior. You're getting older.
Sure.
And so, these are the type of questions you're going to have to answer when you get to the next level. Is it fair to call Pacifica the favorite in the Marmani League now when you consider what's happened, in the season so far? You guys are 4-0. Oaks and Simi have had rough, 1-3 starts. Bonnie's got a couple losses. Is it fair to call Pacifica when your next game is going to be a Marmani League game is it at Oaks or against Oaks? So that's a pivotal game in the league. You're going to start that league out, with one of the biggest games of the entire league season. So going into that, should we consider Pacifica the favorite in the Marmani League, or do you guys have to win a game like that Oaks Christian game before we really label you guys that?
I would consider us the favorites. I feel like we've proved not enough, but a little enough to say we're the favorites. We've been balling out. So I got faith in my team for that week. So it's just really time to see. So I'll say we're the favorites, sure.
There it is.
Well, if you look at the Stars rankings, it sure looks like you guys are the favorites as well. Not telling any secrets. So before we wrap up, just I got to watch you guys play last year, but so much about that team has changed. And Joe's seen you play. He's described kind of what he's seen. But for all the people out there like myself so far who have not gotten to see that Pacifica offense in particular play, just tell us what we're missing until we get out to a game. Like, describe that offense to us.
Very fast, explosive. Because we're a no huddle team, so we rapid fast. That's what our biggest strength is. Defenses, you could say, like, can't catch up, and that's a big thing for Elijah Royster. I'll say the best player on the field. Very explosive.
High praise. That's awesome.
Yeah, we've seen Elijah Royster play too.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
It's a decent assessment. All right. Well, just thank you so much for being our first guest in the second iteration of Prep Period. Thanks so much for giving us a little bit of time in your lunch. What's on the menu at Pacifica High? What do you on the way to consume?
Chicken wings. Oh, don't do that, Taylor. You can't do that to me. I'm getting hungry, man. I haven't had lunch yet. Don't do that to me.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.
Our pleasure.
Good luck, man.
Thank you.
Very
there
cool.
It is. That worked. Holy crap.
That was awesome.
We weren't quite sure that was going to work. Or
we're teaching
I
ourselves.
have confidence in you.
I think you projected a lot of confidence onto me, whether I was gonna be able to figure out the technical side of that, but I maybe didn't share all of the confidence. So cool to see that worked. Where were we? We were talking a little bit of Fillmore Grace. Two like super explosive offensive teams, which is always fun to watch. I feel like I've been telling you about Fillmore now for a couple of weeks. You finally grinded some tape, and maybe you're on the same wavelength as me now, huh?
But yeah, they moved up in the rankings this week, so you can tell I grinded some tape. But we were on the player poll, so let me just go down. If you are a fan of Michael Denny of Nordhoff, Shane Feller of Camarillo, Nevada Ford of Oak Park, Kane Miller of Calabasas, Ventura, Jack Cunningham, Moore Parks, Brody, Basicchio. Did I get that?
Basicchio, yeah.
Royals, Landon Murray, Del Sol's, Hector Villasenor, Taylor Lee, who we just spoke to, Fillmore's Thomas Alamillo, who is a multi-sport star, Oak Park's Grayson Ozat, Agura's Gavin Gray, Grace's Riley Williams, Fillmore's Josiah Patterson, Buena's Jackson Roberts, Westlake's Ford Green, Buena's Blake Eberhard, Newbury Park's Matthew Curry, Simi Valley Salvilla, Ventura's Derek Garcia, Agura's Luke Boussier, TO's Jackson Taylor, or TO's Hayden Vercher. Go to vcstar.com, support them via your vote, and the results will be named on the live blog on Friday night before we cover our games.
Heck yeah. I love it. Who else we got to talk about? Who else have we not talked about from this week? We have
No, I think let's move to the stat of the week, and then we'll talk about our coverage.
Cool. Perfect. Okay, this is a great stat of the week from the man, the myth, the legend, Derry Eads, the Deuce. The Deuce's stat of the week. Westlake 4-0 joins Hueneme, the 2009 Hueneme team and the 2015 Oak Park team as county teams this century who have started 4-0 after an 0-10 season the previous year. Crazy stat. Crazy stat. And a chance to move to 5-0 this week against Venice.
It's a taste of the turnaround that Rick Clausen has pulled off so far with Westlake. He hinted to me, and we are going to do something on that turnaround soon. And in it, Rick Clausen will admit that he didn't quite expect it to be this quick. So there's a little teaser. But he's obviously, knows how to coach high school football locally. He's had a lot of success at Calabasas and Oaks Christian, and was a heck of a quarterback himself at Tennessee. So they're in a really good place going forward. They're playing. I remember covering Oaks Christian when Rick was there at Venice, which actually the coach of Venice, Angelo, I think it's Angelo Gaston, was one of Rick's coaches growing up. So there's a connection there between those head coaches. So that game is Thursday. So we get a little bit of a taste. Westlake will be done with their non-league schedule before jumping into Conejo Coast League play one day early. So they have a little bit of a head start into that bye week and then going into week 6.
Yeah, Coach Clausen went as far as to say, like, wins are not, we're not even beginning to think about winning football games this year. We are like establishing a culture. We're getting the guys to feel proud of wearing a Westlake football uniform again, which he felt, had that kind of pride and spirit had lapsed. And safe to say it's a very pleasant surprise for Coach Clausen to clearly have, reset the culture and also be picking up all these wins his first season at the helm.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Definitely. Well, Joe, you want to put on your host hat and jump ahead to third period here?
So this period here is a reminder of everything you get with your VC Star subscription. Both Dominic and I did our football rankings entering football season. Dominic has done his volleyball rankings. This week, Dominic has unveiled the first cross-country individual runner rankings in Star's history, I believe, and both boys and girls. And at some point next week, we will have flag football rankings as well. So, there's a lot of reporting that goes involved, a lot of expertise when you talk about cross country, where you actually have a former runner or current runner.
Ooh, we're gonna go with former. No, we're gonna go former on that one. Former high school and college cross country and track runner, and now a certified couch dweller. My girlfriend does all the running in this household these days.
Oh, I saw that 3-point shot. Maybe we got to call you a wing 3. So let's just talk about the process for a second. When you are assigned this story, when you were assigned the job of putting these runners in an order, how did you tackle it? What were you looking at? Was it coach input? Was it time? Obviously all cross-country courses are different. And so times are tough to gauge. Just bring me through your process a little bit, and then let's talk about the top 10.
Yeah. So, the first place you start with rankings like these in a sport like cross country or track and field is very simply the marks that we know exist. So cross country is a little bit more complicated than track because every track, any track anywhere is going to be essentially the same track. The surface might be a little different, whatever, but it's still going to be 400 meters and in an oval, and you may run on a rainy day or a cold day or a hot day, but it's the same basic surface. Cross country, you could have a 3-mile course, at say the Woodbridge Classic, notoriously fast race, considered maybe to be a slightly short course, and then you could have a 3-mile race that's up at Lake Casitas for like the Ventura County Championships, which is a tough course. Everybody's going to run, a minute slower. So it's important to kind of gauge those, compare, runners' performances at the same courses is kind of an important way of doing this, and head-to-heads. We started in these rankings with last year's performances, which is why, our 2 number 1 ranked runners for the boys and the girls were our top performances or top performers at last year's state meet. We weighted the postseason performances higher than, early season invitationals and that kind of thing. Because, those are the races that count. So getting up and running fast in those races is the most important thing for being ranked high in these rankings. So that's, on top of all of that, we call coaches, we hear about, incoming runners that we haven't seen because they were in middle school last year. And that was particularly noteworthy on the girls' side of things, where we have a few freshmen who have cracked our top 10 in these top 25 rankings. So, you got to kind of trust the performances, but also trust, our local coaches who are, graciously helping us out and telling us about their kids who are coming up the pipeline.
All right, so let's talk about the girls first. Do you want to count down? You want to count up? Give us introduce us to the top 10 here.
Yeah, why don't we? I like the idea of counting up build a little suspense. So
Okay.
we'll start at number 10, which is Jenna Murray over at Moore Park. She's a junior.
Sophomore.
Yeah, her last
last year she
season.
was
Yeah,
sophomore,
her sophomore campaign, she was 5th at the Ventura County Championships, which is a good kind of that race. Last year's performances at that race, you'll notice as we kind of go through, were important for us. It's one of the few places where everybody in the county is racing against each other, so it's that kind of head-to-head situation. She ran 19:05 at that race and was 3rd at the Coastal Canyon League Championships. But she didn't advance to state with a 61st place finish at the CIF Southern Section Finals, which, for the season that she had, I think was a little disappointing. So she'll be somebody to look out for, kind of coming back with a vengeance this year in her junior season. Number 9, we have Delaney Napiarala. If I butchered that, it's doubly bad because I'm Italian and I believe that's an Italian last name. So apologies, Delaney, if I got that wrong. But very, very strong race at the D4 state championships last year. She placed 21st in 1834. Just talking to her coach, a lot of indications that she's ready for another, like for kind of a breakout this year. Like, she did very well at the end of last season, but kind of inconsistent throughout the year. Some good indicators that she's healthy and ready to go and going to have a big year this year, according to Coach Wes Smith over at Oaks. Number 8 is Maggie Delarianda from Thousand Oaks. She was 2nd at both the Ventura County Championships and the Coastal Canyon League Championships. A lot of really tough runners in the Coastal Canyon League for the boys and the girls. And she had one of the best track seasons by any local. She got new personal bests of 5 minutes and 0.05 of a second. Almost cracked that 5-minute barrier in the 1,600 meters and ran 10:42 in the 32. So some real track speed there for her. Number 7, we have Simi Valley's Acacia Rojas. This was a runner that I had to get kind of put on by our coach over at Simi Valley. She was not necessarily the fastest or most consistently fast runner for Simi Valley last year. That was Cecilia Vasquez and Angelica Espinoza over at Simi, but she's emerged as the Pioneers' top runner this year. One of the biggest risers on this list. She opened up this fall with a time of 17:37 at the Cool Breeze Invitational, which was 80 seconds faster than any 3-mile race she's run in her career. So a big time summer for Acacia Rojas. Number 6, we got Sophie Knuckles of Ventura. She was the second Cougar to have a phenomenal 2025 season opener. Was just behind teammate Ayala Curtis at the Gaucho invite in 18 minutes, 9.6 seconds. She showed some real promise both in cross and on the track as a freshman last year. So she's kind of a building block for Ventura as they're kind of trying to move into the post Sadie Engelhart world over there. Number 5 is Sophia Grant at Newbury Park. Began her 2025 season with a 25th place finish in the seated section at Cool Breeze in 17 minutes 55 seconds. Some of these times are just bonkers to me as a former runner myself. It's like, I'd be envious of a lot of these cross country times myself. She was last year's Marmoni League champion and was 7th at the CIF Southern Section D2 finals. Then we have the freshmen, and this was tough. You talk about kind of putting together this list. It felt like a kind of a risk to do this, but the performances that these two freshmen at Oak Park have had have kind of so far proven me right there. Number 4 is Anya Patillo at Oak Park. She has run one high school cross country race, and she's in our top. She's in our top 5. Now she's run, I believe, 2. When these rankings came out, it was just 1. But she opened her season with a 17:27 performance for 13th overall, and was the second Oak Park finisher at that race. Her teammate, fellow freshman Kathleen Lamb, was the number 1 Oak Park finisher at that race. She ran 17:23 to place 9th at the Cool Breeze Invitational. This is against some of the best runners in this region. She or Anya could clearly be at the top of this list. It's just we got to have a little bit more, a few more races to see what's going on there. But those two runners for Oak Park, I mean, they completely changed the dynamic of the kind of team landscape here, because you have two incoming runners who weren't on your team last year that was, competitive at the state meet, and here they are, in our top 5 rankings.
Joining someone who we might talk about in a second.
Yes, exactly. So we have this was one of the toughest decisions to make, past having those freshmen so high, is
it should be. Yeah, it should be.
Is who's going to be number 1, and we have 2 runners who were absolutely deserving. It ended up being Ventura's Ayala Curtis in the number 2 spot, a long-time kind of co-star to Sadie Engelhardt. She is now in the limelight, and she gets to kind of be that number 1 at Ventura on a really good Ventura team. She won the Gaucho Invitational in 17 minutes 48 seconds to start her season. She won the Ventura County Championship last year, where Engelhardt, I believe, did not race in 18:09, as well as the Channel League title. And she was 15th at the state meet last year in 18 minutes and 5 seconds, helping power Ventura to a 4th place finish. So she's been there on the biggest stages. She's been there for Ventura. She's been consistent for Ventura, a program that's had a lot of, their runners struggle with injury. Unfortunately, she's been, kind of misconsistent over there, which is awesome.
Yeah, Elo's been part of the a lot of the team success they've had under, when Sadie was on the team, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so important in cross country to have those, 2 through 5, runners, and 6 and 7 in certain cases for the team scoring. We ended up going with Oak Park Sophia Perez in the number 1 spot, in part because she has this amazing kind of, it's hard to call it a breakout because she had such a solid year, but her best race of the year came at the state championship meet, where she placed 9th in 17 minutes 46 seconds on that tough course at Woodward Park she powered her team to a 6th place finish in that race. So she kind of saved it for when it counted most. But she, until and unless we see, people beating her in big time competitions, like, where she's going to be racing at her best, she deserves this number 1 spot. She was the 4th Oak Park runner at the Cool Breeze Invitational, behind Tabitha Brown, who's also ranked not in the top 10, but in these top 25, and behind her 2 freshman teammates. So an embarrassment of riches for Oak Park girls cross country to have your 9th place at state, senior coming back and is your 4th runner in your first race. So that's our top 10. Go read the rest of those rankings. Tell me if you disagree with me, if you think they're good, if you think they're bad, if you think I'm crazy. Would love to hear your feedback on the girls' rankings.
All right, and then let's pivot to the guys. Do the same thing. Who's number 10 in your boys' rankings?
Number 10. We're talking a lot about Oak Park, and for good reason. They have kind of cracked the cross country code over there. Something's in the water. So JJ Liu is our number 10 runner. He was I put in his kind of bio of these rankings. He's a good sort of litmus test for, like, how deep is Oak Park? They're deep enough that JJ was running Frosh Soft races, wasn't running with varsity for most of the season last year, and he ends up being a top contributor. He placed 45th at the state meet in 15 minutes 55 seconds. So they're like the story with Oak Park. So I won't have to belabor it later. Is anybody people who aren't on these rankings could be Oak Park's 2nd, 3rd runner by the state meet. That's how deep they are as a team. So he's number 10. At number 9, we have Channel Islands, Ural, Texas. He's kind of, from everything that I'm hearing, this is going to be kind of a special CI team this year, and it's led by Uriel. He won a pair of big invitationals last season at the Raider Invite at home and the Cool Breeze Invitational, and he ran fast on the track. He picked up a new personal best, 4:23 in the 1,600 meters. So I think he's gearing up for a big season this year. Number 8, we have Ethan Marley from Oak Park. He's the top returning runner from Oak Park's state team last year, filling in the kind of shoes of Grant Jones, who was their top guy, leading the charge last year. But Oak Park is our number 1 ranked boys team and girls team, and their top runner is only 8th. So another testament to their depth.
There you go.
Yeah, he ran 15:49 in last year's state race for 39th. He opened up his campaign 15:22 at the Cool Breeze Invite, so quite fast. Number 7, Orrin Hill from Thousand Oaks. Nothing if not consistent last year. He placed 5th at the Marmoni League Championships and the Ventura County Championships, and he was 23rd at the CIF Southern Section D3 Finals. Number 6 is Blake Harris. This is where, these decisions started, again, getting very difficult up near the top of this list. Ventura's top returning runner from last year. He had some of the fastest times of any runner. He ran 14:49 at Woodbridge, which is a fast time at a fast race. He was 22nd at the Clovis Invitational, which is the same state meet course. So it's a kind of indicator of how fast you could run at state. So he placed really well in those invitationals, and he ran 15:31 to place 12th at the CIF Southern Section D2 Championship. So a really talented runner leading kind of a talented trio at Ventura this year. Then we have Arize Nwosu at Oaks Christian. It's a 1-2 punch for Oaks again this year. So you had Cooper McNee and Christian Yoder last year. Every cross-country race that Oaks Christian was in, you'd see those two burgundy jerseys right next to each other until the very end. One of them would outkick the other. But it's kind of the style of running at Oaks, it seems like, on the boys' side, is you have a top 2, and it's going to be Arize Nwosu from Oaks and Vin Kruger from Oaks. They have near equal personal bests at all the same races, near equal personal bests on the track this fall. Both flashed some really impressive 800-meter speed, so maybe see them closing some races pretty fast. So Arize Nwosu is number 5, Vin Kruger is number 4. He was 23rd Vin was 23rd at the state meet last year, and Arize was 24th, so that's why he gets the edge. Sorry, Arize, the one spot. And number 3, we have Micah Dickren from Newbury Park. He's the fastest returning runner over 3 miles last season, who blazed a time of 14:37 at the Woodbridge Classic. He was 10th at the Marmoni League Finals, missed out on a state berth just barely with a 15:51 run at the D2 Finals. And he's got the fastest mile speed of anyone around. He's ran 4:14 in the mile on the track. So another kind of speedster who could maybe win some tactical races at the end. Number 2 is going to be Viggo Bortolin from Foothill Tech. Foothill Tech is one of our top-ranked boys teams, and for good reason. They're in the same division at state as Oak Park, and they're kind of molded in the same way. A very deep team. The Dragons do have a number 1 runner, like a clear number 1 in Viggo, but they also have a ton of depth, a bunch of guys who could kind of finish anywhere in that 2 through 5 spot. So he had one of the most impressive openers of any local runner. He was 2nd at the Gaucho Invitational at 15:21, and he actually took down the runner in that race who we have ranked number 1 going into the season. So he's got a very, very real case to kind of be the top guy here. Number 1, that runner is Derek Luna of Rio Mesa. He was a sophomore last year. November belonged to Derek Luna. He kind of came out of nowhere at the Channel League Championships, finishing 3rd in 15 minutes, 19 seconds. Followed that up with a huge race, finishing 7th at the CIF Finals. And then the momentum carried him all the way to state, where he was 27th in 15:38, which was the best time of any local. So he's another one of those. You can see we're waiting postseason success at the highest level as kind of our top metric. And
for sure.
Derek seems ready for another big year now that he's an upperclassman.
So you mentioned, in terms of team rankings, and we're running out of time here in this episode, but Oak Park is number 1 in both boys and girls. Who do you think could challenge Oak Park by the time we get to November?
Yeah, on the girls' side, it's Ventura. I mean, they have the stars at the top in Sophie Knuckles and Alo. So it's going to be a question of just who can be the 3 through the 5 and how close can they get to cross-country scoring. You want to have the lowest score, and so it's not crazy to imagine that you could have races where Alo and Sophie are finishing 1-2 against Oak Park's really talented deep squad, but then can they get their 3 runners somewhere in there to break up the Oak Park pack? That's sort of the question there. And then on the boys' side, it's Foothill Tech, which we were just talking about. Two very similar teams, both really deep, both great pack running teams. We've written about that in the past. Can Tech's top guys get ahead, far enough ahead of Oak Park's top guys to kind of build a little cushion, and then who's going to be the those guys to kind of fill in behind Vigo? That's the question there. So a couple of West County teams, Ventura schools that are looking to unseat the East County Power in Oak Park.
All right. Well, great job with that, man. Really looking forward to the rest of your cross country coverage this year. Make sure you subscribe to us for all those future stories, articles, photos. Part of the great thing about Dom is he's also a very talented photographer, so we get all these postseason photos that are sprinkled through all these stories. All right, we're running out of time, but let's quickly talk about week 4 in the football ranks. We mentioned earlier today the game of the week is obviously Thousand Oaks at Simi Valley. So you have the defending Minor League champions with going up against a team that has gone to back-to-back CIF semifinals. TO 4-0 against Simi Valley, starting 3-1, starting to get their feet under them.
1-3.
What? 3? Yeah, 1-3. Starting to get their feet under them after that win over Cathedral. So, really big challenge for Jackson Taylor and the Lancers. And we'll start to see a little bit about where this TO team, sits with the elites. I have them at number 2 in this week's rankings, and this is where we find out whether they need to stay there. Do you want to take one of these other games?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Agura at Buena. I know Fillmore coaching staff is going to be watching that game really closely because it's you always want those shared opponents to kind of see, atop the Tri-County League race. We think it's going to be, Agura and Fillmore. So seeing how they fare against a Buena team that, just picked up a really, really kind of quality win against another Tri-County League team in San Marcos. So that's going to be kind of an interesting game to watch. Buena has sort of yo-yoed back and forth a little bit, a tough opener, and then, they bounce back, and then they have a tough third game. They bounce back again. Be interesting to see if they can kind of string together 2, wins to be proud of there.
It's going to be a good weekend for a couple local schools. We've got 2 all-county matchups between teams that haven't won a game yet. Oxnard at Rio Mesa is always kind of a local city matchup there. And, that's 0-3 against 0-4. The Yellow Jackets have a little bit of an advantage that they're coming off a bye, where they're, I'm sure working on some of their issues. And then, Rio, it's just whether or not they're going to be able to get healthy enough to get some of their defensive players they've been waiting on back. And then Royal at Del Sol, you have a Royal team that just scored their first 2 touchdowns of the season last weekend, thirsty for a win against a program in Del Sol that has not won a varsity game in its history yet. So is this the weekend that Royal gets the first win under Adam Brubaker, or is this the moment for Del Sol to celebrate their historic first win? So
spoiler alert, you may see a mustachioed sports reporter at that game checking in with those 2 teams. Where it's not
really?
not for sure, but
breaking news. I didn't even know that.
There's talk on the VC Star Sports desk that you may see me out there.
That would put me in the East County this weekend. I believe
that's where you live, man. That's no biggie.
So I'm central, baby. I'm in the middle for a reason.
Above the grade is above the grade, man. Above the grade's above the grade. That's all I have to say.
Don't paint me as an above the grader. I was below the grade for 15 years. I'm just kidding. Cool. Anything else before I give you my last bit on this schedule?
No, do that, and we'll plug our stuff and get the people out of here.
Yeah, they're obviously, those at Ventura know AJ Pateris. He is bringing his Dos Pueblos Chargers back home to Ventura for their their game at Larrabee. You've got another situation with that with head coach Christian Dearborn at Moore Park, welcoming the former program that he was an assistant at Pueblo Central, a school from Colorado. Those two teams played out in Colorado last year. This is the return event. Your note here is the Fillmore at Carpinteria. They got a shot to go 5-0. After I left them out of the top 15 of the preseason rankings.
I'm getting that shot in at you every time I can.
That's fine. I'll take it. That's it comes with the job. And then a note here on another team that hasn't had a win yet, CI at the Webb Schools. This was the game that CI won last year. So they're heading out into, I believe, Neyland Empire, try to recapture the success they had against this team last year. So that's where we're at a week 4. Remember that next week is mostly buys for everyone. We've only got a handful of games. We had a couple Thursday games and then a couple Friday games, and then we'll be week 6 league play. So, we're almost done with non-league play here in the football season, and we will see. Really interesting mid part. We got to work on our rankings, our mid-season football player rankings.
Rankings
it never stops.
All the time. Rankings here, rankings there, rankings everywhere. And then my stuff to plug. What have I got? Did a recap of the World Championship track first weekend.
Was awesome.
Yeah. So Tara Davis Woodall from former Agura star wins a World Championship gold medal, her second global medal after winning gold at the Olympics last year. And Nico Young, Newbury Park, former Newbury Park star, finishes 10th in the 10K in a really fun tactical race. He was the top American finisher. He races again on, I believe it's Friday. Go check out the website for the exact times and where to watch. But he's in the 5K, so should be fun to watch him maybe get some vengeance after missing out on a medal in the 10K.
I mean, this is all ramping up into Los Angeles Olympics talk. So you've got to follow our future Olympian, our current. They're both Olympians, our Olympians, as we head toward a Southern California Olympiad.
Oh, and last thing for me, the game I told you can't miss, and I certainly won't be missing tonight. I will be out at Oaks Christian for that TO Oaks game. Oaks has won 8 of the last 10 matchups, so and TO's going in. I thinking this is their best chance to maybe try and take the season series off of them this year. So that starts tonight. We'll see if that plays out. But I will be there with my camera and my notepad.
Nice, good job, Dom.
Good job, Joe. I think we're good. I'm gonna roll the music, and unlike previous episodes, you'll see our faces this whole time. But thanks for coming, and until next week, see ya.
It comes down to this for Thousand Oaks in their season. It is a gift to Martin. Martin gets the first down and more. It's a nice little screen to the left-hand side. One play, and see ya later. Caldera dives into the end zone. Touchdown, Oxnard. What a fitting way to end that run. He's at the 40. He's at the 20. 10, 5, touchdown.